Three fruits neurology researchers often highlight for evening brain support. Okay, so I want to share something that genuinely caught my attention when I first started reading through sleep and brain health research. There are a few specific fruits that researchers frequently study in connection with the sleep quality, antioxidant activity, and long-term cognitive health. And when these foods are eaten in the evening as part of an overall healthy routine, some studies suggest they may support normal brain processes that happen during sleep. Not cure anything, not magically transform your brain overnight, but potentially support the biology that keeps the brain functioning well over time. And that distinction is really important. So let me walk you through what led me down this rabbit hole. About 8 months ago, I was listening to a presentation at a neuroscience and sleep conference. One of the topics was something called the glymphatic systems. You may already know about the lymphatic system in the body, the network that helps clear waste and maintain fluid balance. The glymphatic system is a related concept researchers use to describe how the brain clears metabolic byproducts, particularly during deep sleep. When we sleep, brain activity patterns shift, fluid movement changes, and certain waste products that accumulate during waking hours are cleared more efficiently. This area of science is still evolving, but many studies suggest that consistent, high-quality sleep is strongly associated with better long-term brain health. So the conversation at that conference wasn't about miracle foods. It was about the broader question. What lifestyle factors support healthy sleep and normal brain maintenance over time? That includes things like sleep duration and timing, physical activity, stress levels, metabolic health, and of course, nutrition. And that's where fruit came into the discussion, not as medicine, but as one small supportive piece of a much larger picture. Afterward, I spent weeks digging through published research, sleep journals, nutrition studies, aging, and cognition research. And three fruits showed up repeatedly in discussions about sleep quality, antioxidant intake, and cognitive aging. So let's go through them carefully, staying grounded in what the science actually shows, and just as importantly, what it doesn't show. First fruit, blueberries. You've probably heard blueberries described as a brain-healthy food. That idea mostly comes from their high levels of anthocyanins, the plant compounds that give them their deep blue color. Anthocyanins are studied because they have antioxidant and anti-inflammatory properties. And some laboratory and human studies suggest they can influence pathways involved in oxidative stress, cellular signaling, blood flow, memory-related brain regions. Certain small clinical trials and long-term observational studies have found that higher berry intake is associated with better cognitive aging patterns in older adults. Now, association is not the same as proof of cause. People who eat more berries often have other healthy habits too, but the consistency of the signal is why berries keep appearing in research discussions. There's also interest in whether compounds from berries can reach brain tissue in measurable amounts. Some experimental studies suggest this may occur, which helps explain ongoing scientific curiosity. Does that mean eating blueberries at night will dramatically change memory by morning? No credible research shows that, but including berries regularly in the diet, whether morning or evening, fits well within the evidence-based dietary patterns linked to long-term brain health, such as Mediterranean-style eating. Typical study amounts are modest, roughly half a cup to 1 cup. Fresh or frozen both appear acceptable from a nutrition standpoint. Second fruit, tart cherries. Tart cherries are interesting to researchers for a different reason. They naturally contain a melatonin and polyphenols, both of which are being studied in relation to their sleep quality and recovery. Several small human trials have explored tart cherry juice in adults with sleep complaints. Some participants experienced modest improvements in sleep duration or efficiency compared with placebo groups. These effects are not universal, and they are generally mild rather than dramatic. But they are consistent enough that tart cherries are often mentioned in sleep nutrition research. Why might sleep matter so much for the brain? Because decades of neuroscience show that sleep supports memory processing, emotional regulation, and metabolic balance. Poor sleep, on the other hand, is associated with higher long-term risk of cognitive decline and other health issues. So when a food modestly supports sleep in some people, researchers naturally become curious about possible indirect brain benefits over time. Again, this is about our support, not treatment. Most studies use about 8 ounces of tart cherry juice, or an equivalent concentrate earlier in the evening. Third fruit, kiwi appears in sleep research for yet another reason. Its combination of vitamin C, serotonin precursors, and antioxidants. A few controlled studies in adults with sleep difficulties found that eating 2 kiwis in the evening was associated with falling asleep slightly faster, sleeping somewhat longer, reporting better perceived sleep quality. These studies are small and need replication, but they're intriguing enough that kiwi continues to be investigated. Vitamin C itself is important for general neurological function, including roles in neurotransmitter synthesis and antioxidant protection. Adequate intake is part of overall nutritional health, not a targeted brain therapy. So kiwi's relevance is less about a single miracle compound and more about supporting normal physiology tied to sleep and metabolism. Stepping back, what this really means. At this point, it's important to zoom out. No single fruit prevents dementia, reverses cognitive decline, cleans the brain overnight, replaces medical care. Any claim like that would go far beyond current scientific evidence. What nutrition research actually suggests is more modest and more realistic. Long-term dietary patterns, rich in plant foods, antioxidants, and metabolic balance are associated with healthier cognitive aging. That's a very different message than quick fixes, but it's also far more trustworthy. Why sleep keeps coming up in brain research. You probably noticed that all 3 fruits connect directly or indirectly to us sleep quality. That's not a coincidence. Across hundreds of studies, sleep is one of the strongest lifestyle factors linked to long-term brain health. Consistently poor sleep is associated with memory problems, mood changes, metabolic disruption, increased long-term neurological risk, while good sleep supports learning and memory consolidation, emotional regulation, cellular maintenance, overall cognitive resilience. So if an evening routine, whether nutrition, light exposure, or stress reduction, helps someone sleep better, the downstream brain benefits make biological sense. Other lifestyle factors that matter even more. Even though this video focuses on fruit, the strongest scientific evidence for brain health still points to regular physical activity, balanced metabolic health, blood pressure control, social connection, lifelong learning, consistent sleep schedules. Nutrition supports these systems, but doesn't replace them. That perspective keeps expectations realistic and scientifically grounded. How someone might apply this information safely. For people interested in evening nutrition and sleep support, research-consistent ideas could include choosing whole fruits instead of sugary desserts, keeping portions moderate, paying attention to personal digestion and sleep response, discussing major dietary changes with a healthcare professional, especially when medical conditions are present. Simple, low-risk habits tend to be the most sustainable. A quick reality check on personal experiences. You'll often hear people, including me, say things like, "I felt clearer the next morning," or "I seemed to sleep more deeply." Those experiences are real, subjectively. But they're not the same as controlled scientific outcomes. Placebo effects, routine changes, and expectation all play roles. That's why responsible health discussion always separates personal impressions from clinical evidence. The bigger takeaway. So here's the honest conclusion after looking through all this research. These fruits aren't special because they work like medicine. They're interesting because they fit naturally into dietary and sleep patterns already linked to healthy aging. That makes them safe for most people, accessible, consistent with mainstream nutrition science. And sometimes the simplest habits are the ones that matter most over decades. If you wanted to try this, a reasonable low-risk approach might be a small serving of berries, or Tart cherry juice earlier in the evening, or 2 kiwis before bed, not all at once, not as a cure, just as part of an overall healthy routine. Give it time, pay attention to sleep quality and how you feel, and involve a healthcare professional if you have medical concerns. Final thoughts. Brain health is shaped far more by years of daily habits than by any single food. But small, consistent choices, sleep, movement, nutrition, stress management can add up in meaningful ways across time. And that's actually encouraging because it means many supportive steps are within reach, starting with ordinary routines. If you found this helpful, feel free to subscribe. This channel focuses on carefully researched, balanced health education. No hype, no miracle claims, just what current evidence suggests. And I'd love to hear from you. Have you noticed any connection between evening routines and sleep quality? Not medical results, just personal experience. Thanks for being here. Take care of your sleep, your health, and your curiosity. And I'll see you in the next video.